Are you fed up with creating animation alone? Do you find it takes hundreds of hours to create such a short piece of animation? Hi, my name is Nicholas. I'm a 2D animation hobbyist, which means I create a lot of animations like the ones you can see behind you, but it's not my job. I'm looking for people that create traditional style 2D animation to collaborate with. That means I'm not looking for 3D rendered or Flash or Puppet style Adobe After Effects kind of animation or AI generated animation, but hand-drawn digital 2D animation, like the examples behind me. I'm not trying to belittle other styles of animation. I just want to keep the end result cohesive and consistent in style, so I'm looking for people that work in similar techniques, 2D digital drawn animation. So I just want to be clear early on so as not to disappoint anyone further along in the video. Maybe you animate in Blender and you watch an 8-minute video and then you think, oh, he doesn't want 3D animated stuff. So there's that. I use Clip Studio Paint, but I think that any 2D animation program that you use, be it TV Paint or is there one called Toon Boom, Photoshop, or any similar 2D animation programs, it shouldn't be too hard for us to find a way to use each other's outputs, like PNG sequences or MPEGs or AVIs or whatever we need, so that we can share things and continue working on them. Most programs, I think, have some kind of file format that can be used in several programs, like I say, PNG, JPEG, AVI. I also want to be clear that this is not intended as a money-making project, and therefore it's not a paid collaboration. So this is not a job per se. It's just an opportunity for hobbyists to work together. But I am looking for people that can put a little bit of time and effort into this so that we can together create something longer than 3 seconds of decent animation in a reasonably short amount of time. Put simply, this is an opportunity for hobbyists to work together that aren't ready to join like a big studio yet and want to get some experience on working as a team, hopefully on a regular basis. I don't know how often, but I'm hoping that maybe we could do like 1 to 5 minutes of good animation that we can share on our own social medias or YouTubes or websites or whatever, and say, I worked on this, and maybe we can make a couple of animations or one animation every couple of months or something like that. We'll just have to see how that works out and what everybody's availability is and stuff like that. But it would be nice to produce stuff regularly. So please leave a comment down below. I hate that finger thing. Everybody knows where the comment section is. We don't need you to do that. Excuse me. But yeah, please leave a comment below if you're interested in this idea. Now, there are a few things that I think we should consider to begin with that may affect the kind of comment that you leave. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things now, or a few things. Firstly, communication. I think it's important that we find a good way to communicate with each other, to get ideas across to each other and update people where we are on a certain part of the process, be it the sketching or the line art or the colouring and stuff like that. I have no experience in Discord, but I do think that it might be a good place for us to do this. So maybe if someone is watching this who is interested in this collaboration and has some knowledge on how to moderate or administer, I don't know what the correct term is, but organize a Discord, I could have a go. but I can't guarantee it's going to be done well, because as I say, I don't really have a clue what I'm doing when it comes to Discord. But I will leave a Discord link in the description below that we can begin with, and then we can take it from there. I'll make it a private one, so pop me a message and then I'll grant you access so we can keep this to people who are actually serious about doing something together and not just gonna, I don't know, leave a load of abuse or something. Right, second thing I think that we should think about is an idea. So having established a way to communicate with each other effectively, I think the next part of our process should be, what are we going to animate? What story do we want to tell? Hopefully we can agree upon this as a group. However large or small the group becomes, it might just be me and one other person, or it might be a few of us. We'll see. I do think, for the sake of being able to produce something regularly, say once a month or once every couple of months, we should keep the idea as simple as we can, as opposed to a 12-page story treatment with complicated backstories for several characters and heavy dialogue. Let's not turn this into 3 years of hard work that doesn't really end up going anywhere. I would prefer to produce little and often. So as I was saying before, maybe 1 to 5 minutes of decent animation every couple of months would benefit our portfolios and content for our channels and websites and so on. So let's keep the amount of story and dialogue and characters contained in that small space that we have to work with regarding our availability and the amount of time, because the people that are going to be involved, I'm assuming they're going to be having jobs or colleges or other stuff going on in their life. This is not going to be our full-time jobs, and I don't want this to become a stressful collaboration, but a happy place for us to be creative as a collective instead of just a loner like me. So maybe 1 or 2 simple characters, not simple characters, sorry, I correct myself, 1 or 2 characters with a simple interaction in an uncomplex environment. So this doesn't mean it has to be boring. They can be visually interesting, and the story can be heartfelt or funny or scary or whatever, without becoming too complex. It just means we're not biting off more than we can chew, and will give us the ability to keep the quality of our work to a good standard as well, not having to compromise in order to get a 1-hour film made. It's the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. You're not stupid, but you know what I mean, right? A few minutes of animation, not a few hours, is more manageable. So let's come up with an idea in the chat. How will we decide to do that? 3, creating our own concept and reference art. So here, right there, is an animation that took me a few weeks to work on, and on the opposite side, oh god, it's confusing, isn't it? Here you can see the amount of work that I put into gathering my reference before starting to draw. So I drew the character from several different angles with different expressions. And if this were to take more than a few seconds, I would draw up even more concept and reference stuff, like environments and such. We should create art, concept art and reference art that aligns with the idea that we created in step 2, the idea. We should submit and talk about the artworks within the chat. However we decide to do that, whether it's Discord or wherever else, and we should agree on an art style that we can all work well with. the way the characters look, act, the settings, an appropriate color scheme we can all agree on that fits the mood and the story of the characters. Is this a cartoon style or an anime style? Does it look like Disney or Studio Ghibli, or whatever we can, or like a Netflix animation? What is it going to look like? We can all work this out in the chat. And the idea behind this is to have plentiful reference when we want to rotate or move a character or have them make an expression. We have something visual that we can look at and say, right, okay, if I move him this way, he's going to look like that. And it's sort of prepping. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but there may be people that just go straight in and just start drawing. I think that we should prep with concept and reference stuff of our characters' environments, so that we can reference it. 4. Storyboard and thumbnails. I think after we have got an idea and we've got some concept stuff going on, someone should create some storyboards or some thumbnails before we start animating. Maybe someone that has some skill with perspective or blocking a scene where you move characters around the room and decide where the camera would be. Obviously we don't have a camera and we don't have actors, but what we draw and how we draw it is going to be the camera. Where are we going to place that? Over someone's shoulder or whatever. Do this sort of storyboard and thumbnailing like you would for a studio, very simple, black and white, just to show us how the scene is going to look and play out. So maybe someone who is interested in doing that. Number 5, an animation sketch. I quite like this process actually. It's a rough pass at the animation. It can be scribbly, but it needs to be readable for the next process. And it should show the flow of the animation, the arcs and the timing and spacing and all those things that can be worked out here. Instead of making a pretty picture, how are things going to move in a nice pleasant way, or unpleasant, depending on what kind of, if it's a horror, you might want that jerky kind of stuff. But yeah, working out how the animation is going to be and then passing it on to the next process, which would be number 6, the cleanup. So now that the sketch is in place, someone needs to come along and put some nice ink work and clean up all those scribbly lines and keep the fluid animation. We're not trying to change anything at this point, we're just trying to make it look a bit prettier. And then we'd be moving on to the color process. So I spoke earlier in step 3 in creating our concept and reference art that we would choose a color palette that we could all agree on that fits the mood and the personality of the characters and environments. So now that color palette can be referenced, and the person that can take that clean line art animation and add those colors in a cohesive way. And then finally we need someone who can do the post-processing. So most people have some sort of video editing software. That shouldn't be too hard. Windows comes with one built in, and you may have access to something like Premiere Pro or whatever it is. I don't think it matters too much, because it won't be like we'll be doing complex transitions. Just if we've got maybe a series of 3 to 5 second animations, and now we need to stitch them together to make a 1 to 5 minute short animation, and adding any music that, royalty free music that we might want to use, or things like that. Everything will need to be edited together, and possibly some post-processing stuff that could benefit, but we don't want it to distract the animation, distract from the animation too much. You know, we don't want heavily filtered stuff, but you know, maybe, I don't know, color lots or something like that, or something just to put a bit of extra shine on it. That stuff is not too important. We could literally just take the scenes and just put them all together, and then make sure the voice, if there's any voice fits, and music or whatever. And the very last thing that I wanted to talk about is this, which we can discuss further in the chat. It's a question really: should we each take a specific role? So should one of us do the colours, and one of us do the cleanups, and one of us do the post-processing, and one of us do the sketchy part? Or should we all take a specific scene and do a few of those roles? So to explain this more, do you just want to clean up the line work, or would you like to do the storyboard and the thumbnails as well? So there's many ways that we can do this, and we can discuss this later in the chat. So say there ends up being 4 of us, and we have 8 2-second scenes. Do we each take 2 scenes each and just work on those scenes and report back to show how we're doing, and checking if it's matching up with how the other people are doing their scenes, and it's not going to be all weird and it's all going to look like the same thing? Or does one of us sketch out the second scene while another person is cleaning up the first scene? If you get what I mean. So, you know, there could be, for example, someone colouring the first scene while someone's already sketching out the 4th scene or something, and all the scenes are being worked on at the same time. But as I say, we can discuss this in the chat and see what we decide is the best way to go about it. And if it doesn't work on the next project, we can switch it up and do it differently. And lastly, I just really hope that this video reaches somebody, some people, as I don't have what you call a large following. You know, I don't have a big subscriber base or anything like this, so I guess I'll just sort of post this video wherever I'm allowed to post it, and you know, leave your comments below if you want to be involved. And thank you very much for your time. Bye bye.